All right, guys. Our next guest is coming off an impressive win over Pedro Munoz at UFC 238, currently riding a 4-fight win streak. He's also the man that many people feel deserves the next title shot for Henry Cejudo's bantamweight belt, the Funk Master himself, Aljamain Sterling. Welcome to Submission Radio. How are you today, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Dude, it's great to have you on the program, and it's been an interesting weekend for your division. Urijah Faber returned to active competition. Many people were expecting Ricky Simón to get the win. Faber pulled off the upset, beat him in 46 seconds, then calls out Henry Cejudo. Before this weekend, did you even remotely expect Urijah Faber would be talking about being the next title challenger to Cejudo's belt?
No, I didn't think he would be irrational that much to think that, coming out of retirement after such a long layoff and losing to a guy that two guys ahead of him beat, I just didn't think that made a ton of sense. I understand he's a legend and all that. He has a huge following and whatnot, but let's be real here. The guy's had four title shots, and I don't think he's deserving of right now. I just don't think he's deserving of a fifth.
You obviously went on Instagram by now, and everybody's seen you. You posted a picture of yourself in a very nice blue suit, but more importantly, you said that it's time to stop the bullshit and get back to business. What was your sort of take on it? What do you think it sort of says about the sport that Faber, despite his long layoff, is kind of being talked about as the next possible title challenger, and skipping over a guy like yourself who is currently riding a really impressive 4-fight win streak?
It's MMA, man. The Wild Wild West. You can just expect that anything can happen, and that's kind of where I'm at with things. I'm ranked number 2 in the world for a reason. I put in the work, put my time in. The fans know that I deserve a shot. Even the casuals know I deserve a shot. The people who might not be the hardcore fans, but I think my performance and my work speaks for itself. And at the end of the day, if Faber's the guy who jumps in there with me, or Petr Yan, or whoever it is for the interim title, I'll be more than happy to oblige to either one of those tasks.
The interim title, that's something that we want to talk to you about in just a second, but obviously you retweeted some art from Chris Reaney that he put together for Bloody Elbow. I know you didn't love the way that your legs were depicted, and you kind of made a joke about that, but other than that, how accurate do you think that cartoon is, sort of, as far as, title shots these days? A lot of people have kind of echoed that sentiment.
It's accurate in the sense of people talking about it. It's not really the sense of Dana talking about it, so that part was a little off, I guess. I didn't even want to acknowledge that part. I want to acknowledge just the drawing of my legs. Because I think Dana knows if it was like a GSP and he was coming off of a big win, coming off of retiring from the belt like GSP has done in the past, and coming back and wanting to just fight for the belt immediately, it makes sense. But Urijah is not that guy, so it does not make any sense whatsoever. I think he's a huge draw in Sacramento. I don't know if everyone is, and the thing about the MMA fans is, what have you done for me lately? So for him to be away for so long, come back with such a big win, don't get me wrong, it was a great performance on his part in terms of the finish. I just think there's a couple guys that are, there's a hierarchy now. He left the queue, and now he re-entered the queue. So if he wants to come back and challenge for a world title, more power to him, but he's going to have to do it on my terms and wait for the shot. At this point, I think all things are going to somewhat have to do with me and kind of go around me in order to get to that gold strap. So at the end of the day, I'm not really worried. I got all the confidence in the world that things are going to go accordingly and according to plan, and I'll get that long-awaited title shot. So that's where I'm at right now.
You mentioned on Twitter that Urijah needs to beat somebody in the top 10. I mean, based on what you saw, how do you think he'd do against the top guys in your division?
I mean, didn't we see it already? He lost to Jimmy Rivera. I mean, I don't know if there's much else to say about that. There's a Corey Sandhagen, there's a Rafael Sunsao he could fight. I think he might have fought him in the past, like a long time ago. Maybe him and Dominic Cruz can have an old man's match. The retired fighters, so maybe they can challenge each other for the retired MMA fighters league, the has-beens, so that's That's where I'm at, man. I want to fight one of these young contenders, one of these guys who deserve it, and that's where I'm at. So I've never been one to shy away from a challenge, and I've never been one to shy away from talking a big game. You know, I like to put my money where my mouth is, and go out there and perform and do what I got to do. So, like I said, whether it's Urijah, Petr Yan, I don't even know who else there is because just about everybody else is coming off the loss. So I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for my managers to call me, let me know, and go from there.
I mean, you mentioned it. He's had an incredible career, but it's interesting to see how he would do against the top guys in the division. If you matched up with Urijah, let's say in the next fight, how do you think that matchup would go?
In the next fight?
Yeah, if you were to fight Urijah next for the, let's say, interim title or whatever, how do you see that matchup going?
He's too slow, man. He's small. He's too slow. He's not strong. He might have an old man strength. That's about it. But I would like to think that I got a better squeeze than he does in terms of the grappling department. I think I'm a lot more versatile than an overhand right. And shame on Ricky Simón for not knowing that was his one trick that he had in the bag. But Uriah's been notorious for that, taking out up-and-coming contenders, the Michael McDonald's. Now Ricky Simón joins that list. He's a tough dude. He's a veteran. He's got good fight IQ. But I think, like, Father Time catches up to everybody. I'm just hitting my prime. I just don't think he's got the goods for me. And I'm not really worried about it. I don't think that's the matchup that they're going to make. I think if there is a fight that's going to be on the table that the fans want to see, it's going to be myself versus a young, tough, hungry Petr Yan who needs to get the shit smacked out of him.
Well, why do you feel like Piotr needs to get the shit smacked out of him? Because I know he was calling you out not too long ago for an interim title shot.
Yeah, the guy's what I would like to call a little bit of a two-faced talker. He's one of those guys who says, "Oh, I don't do my talking outside the cage. I get in there, let my performance speak for itself." That type of thing. He's one of those kind of guys. And then he gets on Twitter and he's talking about he could beat Henry Cejudo and I in one night with one hand or whatever, something dumb. And then he tried to come up to me and ask me why I'm afraid to fight in Moscow. And I had to simply, politely tell him, "Hey there, Peter. I'm ranked higher than you. You don't call the shots. I call the shots. You report to me for work or Dana White. But other than that, his dude's going to come. You know, he thinks he's better. I think I'm better. And I think it's going to be a great fight."
So he confronted you in Moscow and said that to you?
No. He asked me why am I afraid to fight him in Moscow? I told him no one's afraid to fight him in Moscow. I told him I like my money. I don't want to be taxed 35% or whatever the hell it is. And you don't call the shots because he doesn't. You know, so at the end of the day, he's just coming to the game. You know, so the money fight between a fight with him and myself would be in the States for sure. I think that's where they would want to do a pay-per-view. Cejudo's got to go down to defend the 25-pound belt first against Joey Benavidez. Joey 2 times. After Benavidez takes one belt off the shoulder, I'm going to come in and take the other belt off the shoulder.
I think you and Piotr would be a really good fight, you know, because you guys are two guys at the top of the division. But I wanted to, and I guess you kind of answered it. I was going to ask why not Cejudo. I know he's injured right now. Are you sort of okay with him sort of going down and fighting Benavidez while you're sort of at the top of the division? Because a lot of people feel like you'd be ready to fight him, you know, now coming off that impressive win over Pedro Munoz, you know, and be his return fight when he comes back from injury.
Oh yeah, 100%. I would, if I had the opportunity, the real shot at the real belt right away, that would be the ideal situation. But unfortunately, I don't make the rules in this company, in the UFC. Dana White, Sean Shelby, and McMaynard, those guys call the shots. You know, they get to the big boys table and they make those decisions. And I'm the company man, so I'm just gonna have to go out there. They tell me who I'm gonna fight, and I just gotta go out there and beat them up and backpack them or wherever the case may be. I've been my backpack's getting a little dusty these days. I'm trying to keep you guys up all standing up now these days, so I might have to go dust that off and bring it back out of the toolbox. But I would love that fight against Henry Cejudo. He's a tough dude, competitor, but same thing, man. He's too small and he's a tough dude. But you got two guys. I'm not Marlon. I'm not TJ. I got this. he's not gonna find no quit in me. I'm a different. I truly do believe I'm a different breed. I think my one hiccup was the fight with Marlon. I got put out. I think there's a difference between giving up and getting put out. And I don't think any of my performances have ever shown anyone been able to push me over like some punk. And I think that's the difference between a matchup with him and I. So I'm excited for that match in the future. But as of right now, I got to do what I got to do. Whoever is going to be standing across that cage for me, I'm just going to meet them in the center, walk forward, push forward, put the volume pace on them, and funk them up.
Just speaking of Cejudo, what do you think of him in general and his King of Cringe gimmick? The whole Triple C nickname, walking around with the gold medal and the belt, sort of out in public. What do you make of the whole persona?
It's god awful, but I don't know if it's working or if it's helping to want people wanting to see him just get his ass kicked. So maybe that will help sell tickets that way and people to order the pay-per-view to see him get the shit kicked out of him. Maybe that's what it's doing, but I think people are just super annoying. They just don't want to see the guy. I just hope that's not the case when we fight, or they at least tune in so that they know I'm going to kick his ass. So I think that's pretty much it. There's not much I can say about that. It's a little odd. I think he is an odd guy, and I think he's just embracing his oddness in the public eye. But his resume speaks for itself, you know. Like I said, he's a tough dude, but he hasn't. I know everyone says he hasn't fought me yet, but he hasn't fought nobody like me yet. This is a different type of style.
Well, what do you think it'd mean sort of to add a scalp like him on your resume? You've beaten a lot of tough guys. He's had some excellent wins in his last few fights. What would it mean to sort of put a guy like Cejudo out?
I mean, he was at the ESPYs considered one of the greatest male combat athletes. Was it all athletes or just combat athletes?
I believe the ESPYs is all athletes.
And he was in that consideration, that race with Amanda Nunes and Daniel Cormier. Mm-hmm. And like I said, he's a double champ, Olympic champ. So when I beat him, what does that make me?
Absolutely. I mean, he is a great name to have on the resume. Just quickly, Aljamain, while we're talking about champions, I mean, a former champion of the division is TJ Dillashaw. We never really did get a chance to have you on the program to get your thoughts on what happened with him losing his belt and obviously being suspended. What do you make of TJ sort of being out of the mix for a while? And is he a guy that if you became champion, you'd be willing to sort of defend against if he returns to MMA and fought again?
Yeah, if they test his ass. I've heard those rumors. I got the cone head going right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, wow, look at that. Mohawk.
My new hairdo, I'm going to go in there and spike people.
Backpack with a spike to the head.
Yeah. Nah, you know what, man? In the MMA community, I kind of feel like it's small, but it almost reminds me a little bit of high school with like the gossipy kind of talking. This guy talks about this guy and this girl talks about that. It's a little weird like that. And I mean, these rumors of him doing stuff have been like years ago.
But you heard about this a while ago before he even.
Yeah. So I'm not one to throw dirt on anybody's name, but the dirt is out, and I'm gonna have to put TJ to shame, man. If he earns his way back to a title shot, then I will oblige. But I got to make sure he's getting his ass tested because that guy's got cardio for days, and we obviously now know why. It's, you know, I think when you have such a crazy high output like that and you don't slow down, something's got to be up. But I don't know. I'm no scientist. But if he's the guy standing across from me, it's all the same. I treat everybody the same. And let's go out there and have some fun.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you mentioned that you sort of heard rumors about this a while ago. For a lot of fans, him getting busted sort of puts his legacy into question a little bit and what he's achieved. Does it do the same for you? Do you look back on some of the wins that he's gotten and sort of, does it tarnish a little bit what he's achieved?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it has to. I don't think there's no way to go around that. I mean, how can you not question it? I mean, even people were questioning stuff about John Jones and the whole picogram thing. And I wouldn't say John Jones cheated. I would say he parties a lot and maybe he put himself in situations where people were giving him stuff that could have been the reason why that happened. That's my only way I can justify that in terms of the way that helps him. But a cheater's a cheater. At the end of the day, that's never happened to me. That's never happened to anyone on our team. And I think it speaks volumes, man. We compete, we train hard, we compete hard, and we love the sport. We're super passionate. You see Ally Quinta, you don't boo him. You know, he fights all 5 rounds. He fights all 3 rounds. He leaves his heart out there. Same thing with Weidman. And myself, Vellante, we go out there, we fight hard, we compete hard, and do this all for the fans. And, yeah, man, if you guys want to go out there and cheat and take the easy route, I just hope they can live with the consequences of whatever that may be on their body and whatever on the future. But if that's what you want to do to feel like that's what you need to do to get ahead, then you're mentally weak anyway, and there's gonna be a way for someone to break you, and I'm gonna be that guy to help find that breaking point.
You mentioned some of the great work at obviously your gym, guys like Weidman, Vellante, Ally Quinta, good friend of the program. Obviously, the work is showing, man, because you looked absolutely fantastic against Pedro Munoz at UFC 230. The way you mixed everything together, and you've been on this great tear since the Marlon fight, and that was all the way back in 2017. 4 in a row, beat some tough guys. What would you say is the main difference between you sort of back then and you now?
I mean, the way I chalk it up is the worst thing that I've always thought about that could happen in the sport was being knocked out in front of millions of people, and that's what happened. And at that point, that was more of a confidence thing, not knowing what you can feel, what it feels like to get really cracked with 4-ounce gloves, or a shin to the neck, or a shin on chin, or to the temple, whatever. One of those shots that can put you out. And sure enough, you know, I took a knee straight to the chin and shut the lights out immediately. And after that, it was kind of like, well, that was the worst that could happen. I mean, it's not like I felt it. You know, I would thank God nothing was broken. My jaw, no orbital bones were broken, and I was able to live to fight another day. And I think when I went through that series of emotions and just watching it back, it let me know, like, you know what, man, we only have one opportunity in this fight game, and might as well just go out there and just make the best of it and have some fun. You know, because if you win, you're great. You lose, it's going to be all the same. So it doesn't really matter. And even before that fight, I think my fight, Augusto Mendez, my fight with Renan Barão, you know, I was starting to pick up momentum every single fight. Every single fight, I was progressively getting better. And then the one fight, I was supposed to fight Ronnie Yaya. Marlon steps in when he gets hurt, short notice fight. And, you know, I took him lightly. I didn't give him the respect he deserved. I barely looked at any tape on him. I saw the split decisions that he had with a Sunsao and the ones with a Dotson. I kind of did MMA math. I was like, well, I got this in the bag. And sure enough, fight night, I didn't have the nerves, you know, and not having the nerves on fight night, even if you're super confident you're going to win, is not a good sign. Usually that's a bad thing. That's your fight or flight system responding, in my opinion, letting you know, like, all right, you got to be sharp. Your survival awareness, they heighten. Your aggressive instincts, they heighten. It's a kill or be killed type of situation, even though we're not really killing anybody, but that's the mentality you have to go in there with. And I didn't go in there with that mentality against Marlon. And that's why I truly been telling people, like, whether or not they want to believe what they want to believe, I know myself. I know how I perform. I know how I train. I know the work that I put in. And I think that fight, had I approached it with the mindset I've been having in these last six fights, besides the Marlon fight, I think it's a different ball game. And I think now we're just, like I said, we've been getting better every single fight. And I think the last one, just another wrinkle in my game. And I'm excited for the next one. I really am, because I'm going to really try to go out there and do some crazier shit. So stay tuned.
We can't wait to see you do it. Now, before we let you go, Aljamain, we just wanted to quickly mention, we saw you were at Monday Night Raw the other day. Tell us, how did this happen?
I was supposed to have a business meeting with this beard company. Yeah, but I had to teach class. I just got off the flight from San Diego, so I was kind of time warped. 2 weeks of drinking, Vegas, come home for like 3 or 4 days, and go straight out to LA. And then I was partying out there, and I was like, dude, I probably worked out twice. And I was like, dude, I need to like seriously detox. And I was on like zero sleep. And I wasn't even going to go, so I didn't get a chance to meet the owner that I was supposed to meet. He does a lot of business with those guys. One of the guys is an active WWE fighter, I guess you'll call him.
Pro wrestler?
Term. Pro wrestler.
Yeah.
And so we missed the meeting because I had to teach class at the gym. and we had to reschedule. So it is what it is. So they gave us a couple of tickets to go down and watch and hang out. It was cool. It was a different environment. I like the whole theatrics and of like the walking down the ramp, the lighting, the kids yelling, and the crowd getting into it. That one guy who does like the thing with his music, almost like a soap opera, or like he does music. The beat drops, he bends down, and then he comes up with like to the beat, and then the whole crowd is doing it and then flashing the lights. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. So I enjoyed my time going to that for the first time ever. You know, I was a big fan when I was a kid, and I kind of stopped watching it once I heard like, you know, this like not the real McCoy. But that's pretty much all that.
All right. Well, as we let you go, we have to get a quick update on what the ideal timeline for your return would be. So if everything went perfectly, you know, if you got that next title shot, well, I suppose it would be an interim title shot because Cejudo's out for a little bit. What would be the timeline that works for you perfectly if you were to fight for an interim title sometime soon?
I'm going to say November, December. I think that would be the most ideal time. I'm still fat, still heavy. I'm trying to slim down. My abs are still on vacation. I'm trying to bring them back, but they don't want to leave. And, you know, I want to enjoy my Long Island summer. We don't get a lot of good weather out here. You know, it gets, I mean, even though it's still a great time, it gets kind of crappy not being able to enjoy the water and things like that. So be able to hang out with friends and family and go to the beach, get some beach training, hang out, you know, just going out and just enjoying the weather and stuff like that. It's you don't get this too often in this type of sport when you're prepping for a fight. Usually those summers, they go by like that and you don't really get to enjoy it. So I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor. You know, that June fight was perfect timing, so I could just relax, recover, heal up, and get some things situated and taken care of with my podcast and all that other stuff. And yeah, man, November, December, I think that's probably gonna be the next time I get back in there.
Just talk to us about your podcast, The Weekly Scraps, man. For those who may not have tuned in just yet, but definitely should. What can they expect?
Well, it's pretty much a hardcore. If you're a hardcore fight fan, I give you the goods in terms of breaking it down, breaking down the technique, letting people know step by step what the fighters are doing in there, and it's been fun for me. I've been tweeting about fights for such a long time, and then I had a few people tell me I should do a podcast, and then I finally was like, you know what, let's just do it. Let's just see what happens with it, and let's just have fun because I've been doing it anyway for free. I'm still not doing it. I'm not getting paid for it. I enjoy it. And I think it's actually made me a better MMA coach. And some of the stuff that I see, I do take it and I bring it to the training room, and I either work on it for myself or I'll teach it to the team. And yeah, so it's been very beneficial for me to do this. And we recap the fights from the weekend before, and then we break down the fights that are coming up in terms of their skill sets. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. Check out The Weekly Scraps. Of course, follow them out on Twitter and Instagram at @Funkmaster_UFC. I can't wait to see Ally Quinta on The Weekly Scraps and, you know, all the guys from Team Longo. Aljamain, we could talk to you for ages, man, but we don't want to be greedy with your time. Really appreciate you jumping on and chatting with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.